of welcoming His Excellency, Mr. Nana Akufo-Addo, President of Ghana. Allow me to say that I believe that this organization is a place you would call home. You would call it home because of the many times that you decided to be with us, be in Paris, in Accra or elsewhere, to express your encouragement and support of what UNESCO stands for, and to join your voice as a global leader convinced of the importance of multilateralism to build peace. You would call it home for the values of freedom, equality, and justice that you recently promoted through your actions. They are the same values that inspire our work. You would call it home for the accountability that you expect from us to be guided by the high-level goals and at the same time to deliver tangible results on the ground, especially in Africa, and especially for the younger generations. Mr. President, we cherish your leadership. Your presence here today at the session of the Executive Board is, for all of us, invaluable opportunity to from your vision and perspective. And I'm sure it will also help us reinvigorate our efforts. Mr. President, with pleasure, the floor is yours.
It is always good to be back in Paris and to the headquarters of UNESCO. I thank the Director General for the opportunity to deliver these remarks of the 215th session of the Executive Board of this organization, arguably the most outstanding global agency to have emerged out of the formation of the United Nations. A month ago, we reaffirmed our commitment to the work of UNESCO when Ghana played host to the Africa Conference of National Commissions for UNESCO. This meeting, the first of its kind in a decade in Africa, sought to converge the common strategic priorities of national commissions for UNESCO in African member states, with the overarching goal being to enable the continent implement the Global Priority Africa program adopted by the UNESCO General Conference at its 41st session. Global Priority Africa program have changed both in their continental aspirations and in their strategic focus. This is because our world continues to change with new and complex challenges, and as such, we believe that Global Priority Africa must respond strategically to the needs of the changing times. I'm delighted that UNESCO has made Africa a global priority, and I see UNESCO's flagship programs, such as the dissemination of the general history of Africa and its pedagogical use in African schools, the sustainable benefits of technological advances, including the deployment of artificial intelligence, and the preservation of Africa's rich cultural heritage, including the restitution of stolen artifacts during colonial occupation or resulting from illicit trafficking of cultural properties, as being relevant to achieving the objectives of the African Union's Agenda 2063, that is the Africa we want. Excellencies, when I took my turn to address the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly some 3 weeks ago, I urged the world to step up efforts at addressing the many socio-economic challenges that confront her. Likewise, with its wide fields of competence, UNESCO is also today expected to respond to the diverse challenges confronting the world, especially in Africa. And I hope this meeting of the Executive Board will provide you with the opportunity to discuss how UNESCO can employ its unique competences, expertise, and networks to tackle critical issues buffeting the world at this point in time. Despite growing international commitments to promote peace and sustainable development, as envisaged by the 2030 UN Sustainable Development Goals, it appears we are unable to, quote, build peace in the minds of men and women, unquote. Global disruptions have become ever increasing, complex and intertwined, thereby militating against our collective efforts to achieve the ideals of UNESCO. 2 years ago, we fought against an invisible, dangerous virus, which highlighted the frailty of our common humanity and the insufficiencies of our international scientific advances, and even exposed furthermore the brevity of human life. As though that was not enough, our international order is today under severe strain since the unprovoked invasion of Ukraine by Russia. Like many, I have bemoaned the effects of this conflict on the economic advances of Africa and her peoples. It is not just the dismay that we feel at seeing such deliberate devastation of cities and towns in Europe in the year 2022. We're feeling this war directly in our lives in Africa. Every bullet, every bomb, every shell that hits a target in Ukraine hits our pockets and our economies in Africa. This is evidence, if any, more was needed of the interconnectedness of our world today, where the effects of this conflict, and any crisis for that matter, reverberate throughout the entire world. We do not have the luxury to pick and choose which crises we want to fix. At this moment, we cannot pick and choose between funding guns and education. We cannot pick and choose between the interests of the present generation and the future of our girls and boys. We cannot choose geopolitical concerns over preserving our cherished cultural heritage, lest we perish universally. Unfortunately, due to global instability, education has become one of many competing priorities of domestic budgets. Development aid to the education sector is seriously under pressure. Indeed, countries reduced their spending on education after the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, and at the same time, direct aid to education by bilateral donors fell by some $359 million United States dollars, which is not compatible with the objectives of the Addis Ababa Action Agenda for financing sustainable development and the goals of the Sustainable Development Goals. We're further informed the prospects for reaching funding target through voluntary contributions are uncertain, as several long-term donors have already reduced significantly their voluntary contributions to UNESCO due to a change in development cooperation priorities, thereby significantly impacting our planned program implementation. In spite of these challenges, I commend UNESCO for the lead role it played in ensuring the success of the Transforming Education Summit held on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. Necessitated by the seminal Futures of Education report from UNESCO, this summit, and indeed the pre-summit held here in Paris, have been extremely successful in getting the world to reflect deeply on the trajectory of educational systems and how to address the challenges of our times. As the recently appointed domestic financing champion of the Global Partnership for Education, I seek your cooperation and support to work towards developing sustainable homegrown financial solutions so we can develop the educational system for the future we want in our various countries. We must strive as member states to ensure that education remains a priority in our common development agenda. Excellencies, I also seek the collective commitment of UNESCO to win the fight against climate change. With our planet heading towards a dangerous tipping point as a result of climate change, our determination to protect nature and the environment has not yielded the desired dividends globally. We find ourselves in a race against time. Nonetheless, I commend UNESCO for the effort to strengthen the Man and Biosphere program, whose goal is to help protect nature and biodiversity loss globally through the biosphere reserve concept. I urge UNESCO member states to strengthen measures at their respective national levels that recognize formally the contribution of biosphere reserves and designate more biosphere reserves and geoparks as a sure way for solving the climate crisis. The holding of the Mondial Conference on Cultural Policy and Sustainable Development, in which the Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture of Ghana participated in Mexico City, is worthy of commendation. The government of Ghana recognizes culture as a lever for sustainable development, socio-economic development, peace, social justice, human rights, and gender equality. It is key to the attainment of our mutually agreed upon sustainable development goals. It is in this regard that the propagation of culture has been mainstreamed in Ghana's National Development Plan. I wish, therefore, to add my voice to the call that the World UNESCO Conference should be organized every 4 years under the auspices of UNESCO as a means of providing an idiosyncratic global platform for countries to interact and brainstorm on good practices and approaches for the development of our respective cultures. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to inform you that Accra has been named the UNESCO World Bank Capital for 2023, making our vibrant city part of the prestigious World Book Capital Cities Network. This is an acknowledgement of the giant strides Ghana and Africa are making in developing our book and creative arts industry. And we thank you for your diverse contributions that made this possible. The year-long program to celebrate this honor done us by UNESCO will commence from 23rd April 2023, which is celebrated globally as the World Book and Copyright Day. I wish to use this platform to invite you all to join Ghana in this year-long celebrations. As I indicated at last year's 75th anniversary celebration of UNESCO, we must continue for the next 75 years to deepen our cooperation even further in the areas of education, natural science, social and human sciences, culture, communication, and information to achieve the future we want and leave no one behind. I wish you a successful session, and I thank you for your attention.